What are the untold tales of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles? The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles are among the most significant historical records from early medieval England, chronicling events from the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons to the Norman conquest in 1066. Compiled by various scribes, primarily in monastic centers, these records provide a foundational understanding of the period. However, the chronicles often focus on grand narratives, kingship, warfare, and political change, while leaving many stories untold. These untold tales, encompassing lesser-known narratives and overlooked figures, offer a richer, more nuanced understanding of Anglo-Saxon society. We seek to uncover these hidden stories, examining their importance and impact on our understanding of Anglo-Saxon history. Through an analysis of the political, cultural, and religious contexts in which the chronicles were written, let's explore the biases that influence the selection of events recorded and the tales omitted. These untold stories, of unsung heroes, cultural practices, and everyday life, will be brought to light, revealing the complexity and diversity of Anglo-Saxon England. Additionally, we will compare the chronicles with other contemporary sources, assessing their reliability and the impact of these untold tales on later historical narratives. Ultimately, the exploration of these hidden stories will contribute to a deeper appreciation of the Anglo-Saxon legacy. The origins of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles were initiated in the late 9th century under the auspices of King Alfred the Great, who was deeply concerned with the preservation of knowledge and the education of his people. The chronicles were intended not only as a record of current events but also as a history of the English people, tracing their origins back to the migration of the Anglo-Saxons to Britain. Compiled by various scribes in different monastic centers, the chronicles evolved over time, with each manuscript reflecting the priorities and perspectives of its contributors. The earliest entries in the chronicles drew on a variety of sources, including oral traditions, earlier written records, and contemporary accounts. The purpose of the chronicles was multifaceted. They served as a tool of political legitimacy, a means of fostering a sense of shared identity among the English, and a record of divine providence. Updated periodically by successive generations of scribes, the chronicles were not a single, unified work but rather a collection of related manuscripts, each with its unique character and focus. The manuscripts of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles reflect the diverse interests and concerns of their compilers. Some versions emphasize the deeds of kings and the outcomes of battles, while others include more information on ecclesiastical matters or local events. Despite these variations, the chronicles collectively provide a valuable record of Anglo-Saxon England. However, the selective nature of the entries means that many stories, particularly those that did not align with the interests of the ruling elite or the church, were left untold. The political context and biases. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles were deeply influenced by the political context in which they were produced. Initiated during the reign of King Alfred the Great, a time of intense conflict with the Vikings, the chronicles often emphasize events relevant to the legitimacy and authority of the ruling powers, particularly the West Saxon kings. This political bias is evident in the selective recording of events, with victories and achievements of the ruling dynasty highlighted while less favorable events, such as defeats or internal dissent, are downplayed or omitted altogether. One of the most significant biases in the chronicles is the portrayal of the West Saxon kings as the rightful rulers of all England. This narrative was constructed to support the emerging idea of a unified English kingdom under West Saxon leadership. As a result, the deeds of other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, such as Mercia and Northumbria, are often underrepresented or portrayed in a negative light. The chronicles also reflect the interests of the church, which played a crucial role in their compilation. Ecclesiastical figures and events are given prominence, while stories that do not align with Christian values or the interests of the church are often omitted. The selective storytelling of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles means that many important aspects of Anglo-Saxon history are either downplayed or ignored. For example, the role of women in Anglo-Saxon society is rarely mentioned, and the experiences of common people are almost entirely absent. The focus on political and military events also means that cultural and social developments are often overlooked. This bias has shaped our understanding of the Anglo-Saxon period, leading to a skewed perception of the era that emphasizes the deeds of kings and warriors while neglecting the experiences of the broader population. Untold tales of heroism and conflict. The Anglo-Saxon period was marked by numerous conflicts, both internal and external, many of which have been overshadowed by the more famous battles recorded in the chronicles. These lesser-known conflicts often involved local leaders and communities who fought to defend their homes and way of life against various threats. One such example is the Battle of the Holm in 902, a conflict that saw the East Anglian Danes clash with the forces of Ethelwold, a rebellious claimant to the throne of Wessex. Although not as well known as battles like Edington or Hastings, the Battle of the Holm was a significant event in the struggle for control over England. Another untold tale of heroism is that of Hereward the Wake, a figure who emerged as a leader of resistance against the Normans following the conquest of 1066. Although Hereward is mentioned in later sources, his story is largely absent from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Hereward led a guerrilla campaign against the Normans from the fens of East Anglia, becoming a symbol of defiance against foreign rule. His exploits, including the defense of Ely against a Norman siege, have been romanticized in later literature, but the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles provide little information about his resistance, perhaps due to the political sensitivities of the time. The struggles of local leaders and communities to resist Viking incursions are also underrepresented in the chronicles. The focus on the actions of the West Saxon kings means that the contributions of other regions and leaders are often overlooked. For example, the role of Alderman Ethelred of Mercia in the defense against the Vikings is not given the same prominence as the deeds of King Alfred. Similarly, the efforts of local militias and ordinary people to defend their homes are rarely mentioned, despite their crucial role in resisting Viking invasions. These untold tales of heroism reveal the broader scope of resistance during the Anglo-Saxon period and highlight the importance of regional leaders and communities in the defense of England. Cultural and social narratives. While the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles primarily focus on political and military events, they also offer glimpses into the cultural and social life of the period. However, many aspects of everyday life are underrepresented, particularly those of the lower classes and women. The untold stories of ordinary people, their customs, and their struggles provide a more complete picture of Anglo-Saxon society. One such untold tale is the role of women in Anglo-Saxon England. Although women are mentioned in the chronicles, they are usually portrayed in relation to male figures, such as queens or saints. The experiences of ordinary women, who played crucial roles in the economy and social life of their communities, are largely absent. Women in Anglo-Saxon England could own property, run estates, and engage in trade, yet these aspects of their lives are rarely documented. The chronicles focus on the deeds of kings and warriors means that the contributions of women to society are often overlooked, despite their significant impact on the social and economic fabric of the time. The customs and traditions of the Anglo-Saxon people are also underrepresented in the chronicles. While there are references to religious practices, particularly the spread of Christianity, the chronicles provide little information about the everyday rituals and beliefs of the people. For example, the practice of wergild, a system of compensation for crimes, was a central aspect of Anglo-Saxon law and society, yet it is only briefly mentioned in the chronicles. Similarly, the importance of kinship ties and the role of feasting and gift-giving in maintaining social bonds are not fully explored, despite their significance in Anglo-Saxon culture. The struggles of common people are another untold aspect of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. The period was marked by frequent conflicts, invasions, and social upheaval, all of which had a profound impact on the lives of ordinary people. The chronicles often focus on the actions of kings and nobles, while the experiences of peasants, artisans, and traders are neglected. These untold stories reveal the resilience and resourcefulness of the Anglo-Saxon people in the face of adversity, as well as the challenges they faced in their daily lives. Religious influence and mysticism. Religion played a central role in Anglo-Saxon society, and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles reflect the profound influence of the Church on the recording of history. However, many aspects of religious life and mysticism are either downplayed or omitted in the Chronicles, particularly those that did not align with the Christian orthodoxy of the time. One of the untold tales of the Anglo-Saxon period is the persistence of pagan practices and beliefs, even after the widespread adoption of Christianity. The conversion of the Anglo-Saxons to Christianity was a gradual process, and many elements of paganism continued to coexist with Christian practices. For example, the worship of nature deities, the use of charms and amulets, and the celebration of seasonal festivals all persisted in some form, even as the Church sought to suppress these practices. The Chronicles, written by Christian monks, often gloss over these aspects of religious life, focusing instead on the spread of monasticism and the activities of the Church. The spread of Christianity itself is another area where the Chronicles are selective in their storytelling. While the conversion of kings and the establishment of monasteries are well documented, the experiences of ordinary people and the challenges they faced in adopting the new faith are less well known. The resistance to Christianity in some regions, the syncretism of Christian and pagan practices, and the role of local leaders in promoting or opposing the new religion are all aspects of the conversion process that are underrepresented in the Chronicles. These untold tales reveal the complexity of religious change in Anglo-Saxon England and the ways in which Christianity was adapted to fit local customs and beliefs. The role of mysticism in Anglo-Saxon Christianity is another underexplored area in the Chronicles. The period saw the development of a distinct spiritual culture, characterized by the reverence for saints, the veneration of relics, and the practice of pilgrimage. Monasticism, which played a central role in the spread of Christianity, also became a hub for mystical practices and thought. Figures such as St. Cuthbert of Lindisfarne, whose life was marked by visions and miracles, became focal points of religious devotion. Yet, the Chronicles often reduce such figures to mere symbols of piety, overlooking the broader mystical and spiritual significance they held in Anglo-Saxon society. The tension between the old pagan beliefs and the new Christian practices is also evident in the legal codes of the time, which frequently attempted to curb practices deemed pagan by the Church. These included the consultation of seers, the use of charms, and the observance of ancient festivals. The Chronicles, while recording the enactment of these laws, do not delve into the persistence of these practices or the reasons for their endurance. This omission leaves a gap in our understanding of how Anglo-Saxon society navigated the transition from paganism to Christianity and how the old beliefs were adapted to fit within a Christian framework. Myths, legends, and folk tales. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles are primarily historical documents, but they also contain elements of myth and legend, particularly in their early entries. The blending of history and myth is a common feature in medieval historiography, where the lines between factual events and legendary tales were often blurred. However, the Chronicles generally focus on events of political and military significance, leaving many of the rich oral traditions and folk tales of the Anglo-Saxon people untold. One of the most famous legends associated with the Anglo-Saxon period is that of Beowulf, a hero who slays the monster Grendel and his mother before ultimately facing a dragon in his old age. While Beowulf is not mentioned in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, the epic poem reflects the values and culture of the Anglo-Saxon people and provides insights into their worldview. The absence of such legendary tales in the Chronicles suggests a deliberate focus on recording events that were seen as historically significant, rather than preserving the mythic and folkloric traditions that were also an important part of Anglo-Saxon identity. The role of oral tradition in preserving and transmitting these myths and legends is another untold aspect of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Much of what we know about Anglo-Saxon myths comes from later sources, such as the Norse sagas, which were written down long after the Anglo-Saxon period. The Chronicles, with their emphasis on written records, do not capture the richness of the oral culture that existed alongside the written tradition. This omission reflects the broader medieval trend of privileging written texts over oral stories, which were often seen as less reliable or authoritative. The tales of supernatural beings and otherworldly encounters that were part of the Anglo-Saxon imagination are also largely absent from the Chronicles. Stories of elves, wights, and other creatures were common in Anglo-Saxon folklore, reflecting the belief in a world inhabited by both seen and unseen forces. These stories were not just entertainment, they were a way of understanding the natural world and explaining the unexplainable. The absence of these tales in the Chronicles suggests a Christianized worldview that sought to marginalize or reinterpret older beliefs, presenting a more sanitized version of the past. Comparative analysis with other sources. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles are not the only source of information about the Anglo-Saxon period. Other contemporary documents, archaeological evidence, and later medieval texts provide additional insights. By comparing the Chronicles with these other sources, we can gain a more comprehensive understanding of the period and uncover some of the untold stories that the Chronicles omit. One important source for comparison is Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People, written in the early 8th century. Bede's work provides a more detailed account of the Christianization of the Anglo-Saxons and includes information about the early kings and saints that is not found in the Chronicles. For example, Bede provides a detailed account of the conversion of King Edwin of Northumbria by the missionary Paulinus, a story that is only briefly mentioned in the Chronicles. Bede also includes descriptions of miracles and visions that reflect the mystical side of Anglo-Saxon Christianity, aspects that are largely absent from the Chronicles. Another valuable source is the Vita Sancti Wilfrithi, a biography of Saint Wilfrid, written by his disciple Edius Stephanus. This text provides a more personal and detailed account of Wilfrid's life, including his conflicts with other church leaders and his missionary work among the South Saxons. The Vita Sancti Wilfrithi offers insights into the church politics of the time and the challenges faced by those who sought to spread Christianity in a still largely pagan world. These aspects of Wilfrid's life are not fully explored in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, which tend to focus on his role as a bishop rather than his missionary activities. Archaeological evidence also provides important information that complements and sometimes contradicts the written sources. For example, the discovery of the Sutton Hoo burial site in Suffolk has provided valuable insights into the burial practices, art, and material culture of the early Anglo-Saxons. The lavish grave goods found at Sutton Hoo, including a helmet, shield, and jewelry, suggest a society with complex social hierarchies and a rich material culture. These aspects of Anglo-Saxon life are not fully captured in the Chronicles, which focus more on political and military events. Finally, later medieval texts, such as the Norse sagas and the Anglo-Norman Chronicle, provide additional perspectives on the Anglo-Saxon period. These texts often include legendary and folkloric material that is absent from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, offering a different view of the period's culture and values. For example, the Norse sagas include stories of Viking raids and interactions with the Anglo-Saxons that are not found in the Chronicles, providing a more rounded picture of the period's geopolitical landscape. The impact of the Untold Tales. The Untold Tales of the Anglo-Saxon period, while not recorded in the Chronicles, have nonetheless had a significant impact on the way the period is understood and remembered. These stories contribute to a more nuanced understanding of Anglo-Saxon society, one that goes beyond the deeds of kings and warriors to include the experiences of ordinary people, women, and marginalized groups. The preservation of these untold tales through oral tradition, folklore, and later literary works has allowed them to survive despite their absence from the official record. For example, the legend of Hereward the Wake has been kept alive through medieval ballads, poems, and later novels, making him a symbol of resistance against tyranny. Similarly, the story of St. Cuthbert and his miracles has continued to inspire religious devotion, particularly in the north of England, where he is still venerated as a local saint. The Untold tales also challenge the traditional narrative of the Anglo-Saxon period, which has often been dominated by the exploits of kings and the spread of Christianity. By bringing these stories to light, we gain a more complex and multifaceted view of Anglo-Saxon society, one that includes the contributions of women, the persistence of pagan practices, and the importance of local leaders and communities. These stories also highlight the ways in which history is constructed and the biases that can influence the recording of events. The impact of these untold tales is also evident in the way they have influenced later historical narratives and cultural memory. The romanticization of the Anglo-Saxon period in the 19th century, for example, drew heavily on these untold stories, portraying the Anglo-Saxons as a noble and freedom-loving people. This image of the Anglo-Saxons has continued to shape popular perceptions of the period, influencing everything from literature to nationalist movements. The Untold tales, therefore, play a crucial role in the ongoing construction of Anglo-Saxon identity and heritage. Conclusion. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicles are a valuable source of information about the Anglo-Saxon period, but they are not a complete record of the time. The Chronicles reflect the biases and priorities of their compilers, focusing on the deeds of kings and the spread of Christianity while omitting many of the stories that were also an important part of Anglo-Saxon life. These untold tales, which include the experiences of ordinary people, the persistence of pagan practices, and the role of women, provide a more nuanced and comprehensive understanding of the period. By exploring these untold tales, we gain a deeper appreciation of the diversity and complexity of Anglo-Saxon society. We also recognize the importance of oral tradition, folklore, and later literary works in preserving these stories and keeping them alive. The Untold tales challenge the traditional narrative of the Anglo-Saxon period and highlight the ways in which history is constructed and remembered. Ultimately, the exploration of these stories enriches our understanding of the past and ensures that the full spectrum of Anglo-Saxon life is recognized and appreciated. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.